Hello. I just thought you guys might enjoy a short reading from one of the short stories in A Glimpse into Madness, which is the book I released about 6 months back. Uh, this is my reading copy, so it's a bit torn up, covered in coffee stains, and all that fun stuff. But might as well get to it. This is called The Visitor. A bored woman stood next to an ornate fountain outside of an office building, impatiently tapping her foot. It had a rhythm, every 3 seconds, tap, tap, tap. Just as she was beginning to think that what she was waiting for would never arrive, a younger, blonder girl walked up to her, bearing two cardboard cups with little plastic lids. The woman eyed them like wounded prey. "There you are, April!" Her eyes darted from cup to cup. "Which one's mine?" April shook her head and smiled. "You're a fiend, Irene. You know that?" But she relented and handed her one of the coffees, then yawned deeply. Irene wondered at the ever-growing dark bags under her friend's eyes, but said nothing. "I gotta run. Early meeting today," April said, then turned to leave. Over her shoulder, she called out, "Remember, it's your turn tomorrow," then smiled and walked away. Irene held her coffee cup in both hands and sipped the acrid, comforting liquid. She glanced at her watch, and reluctantly decided to start work early and meandered to her office. She didn't notice the gentleman in the dark suit, watching her from the lobby window. Not when she walked through the glass doors, and not when she walked past him. Nobody ever does. Irene awoke startled. The nightmares had been getting worse lately, more real, more tortured. She glanced around the moon-soaked room. Her bloodshot eyes told her that a man stood in front of her window, staring out of the thin curtains, basking in the light. She furrowed her brow and rubbed her eyes to attempt to dislodge the residual horrors from her troubled psyche, but the man remained. She trembled. "Who are you?" she asked through unsteady lips. The man turned to her. She couldn't see his face. She couldn't be certain, but she could have sworn he smiled. "Who am I?" he started. "Who are you? What is this place?" He sounded confused, irritated. "This place is my bedroom," Irene replied, indignation showing through her fear. "Is it? I see." He turned back towards the window, suddenly calm. "Can I stay?" She looked at him curiously. Who was this man? Why did he seem so strange? Why didn't she want to scream or run away? "What's your name?" she asked. He turned to her. "Well, that's the question, isn't it? For in a name lies the key to what one can become. Change one's name and one changes what one is, how one is perceived. So I am forced to ask you, what is my name?" He stared at her in the darkness, holding her gaze without effort or care. "I don't know," she admitted. "Then how should I?" He turned to the window once more, dismissing her. "What are you doing here?" Irene asked. The man replied without turning around. "I thought it a nice place to be. It's raining outside. Did you know?" Irene shook her head, then wondered why she bothered. "I like the rain. It makes me happy to be dry." He paused. "Pain, discomfort, annoyance, these things are important. Never give up what hurts you. It makes you appreciate what does not." His eyes followed a cat walking along the fence outside. "What are you talking about?" "About? Is a subject required? I was not aware." "Yes, about. What am I talking about?" He closed the curtains, walked over to her bedside, and kneeled down, staring at her, taking long, relaxed breaths, like ocean waves breaking on the shore. "Nightmares," he whispered, calmly. "Are you insane?" she squeaked. The man's laughter shook the very walls. "Oh, entirely. You would be too, had you seen what I have." He propped his head on an elbow on her mattress. "Do people miss them, do you think?" "Miss what?" "Memories. Do people miss them when they're gone? Do they even notice?" He stared into her eyes, completely in earnest. I... I don't know," she thought for a moment. "I guess they miss them, but only when they notice they're gone." The man laid his head on the bed and ran his hand along the soft sheets, as if every fiber were the most private parts of a lover. "Will you miss them?" he asked, absent-mindedly. Irene gathered her knees to her chest, remaining under her ever-protective blanket. What do you mean? The man's head shot up. Ah! Another apt question! He stood and went to the foot of her bed. What one means is just as important as what one says. Even if what one says is gibberish, the meaning is pure. He looked at her, stroking his chin in contemplation. Axel, Windy Bobug? He asked. What does that mean? He crawled under the bed and positioned himself so close to her ear that she could feel the thrill of a secret in the gentle brush of his lips and the horror of a stranger's touch. Softly, he whispered, Will you miss them? Irene awoke the next morning, refreshed after a full night's sleep. She showered and got dressed for work in the usual mindless fashion. It was Tuesday, so it was her turn to buy coffee for her and April, and buy them she did. When she got to her office, she saw April standing in the usual spot next to the fountain, waiting for her. Irene approached and looked over her friend's haggard face while handing her their shared morning ritual. You look awful today, she said with the bluntness of long friendship. Yeah, I've been having really terrible nightmares all week, April replied. My apologies. You know the ones where some invisible thing is chasing you and you can't turn around because you don't want to see it, but you know it's there and it's, I don't know, hungry or something? Irene took a sip of her coffee and thought for a moment. No, she said. Her forehead wrinkled in concentration as she reached out through the empty space in her mind. I can't remember the last time I had a nightmare. The strange sense of loss that she felt confused and irritated her. She was so wrapped up in what she could have forgotten that she didn't notice the gentleman in the dark suit walking away. Nobody ever does. Oh. So, apologize for that mistake right at the end, but that is The Visitor. It's one of the macabre stories in A Glimpse into Madness. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you're interested in buying a copy, you can contact me. I'll let you know where they are, or they're available online, everywhere, I believe. But, good evening.